All right. Good morning. Good evening. I hope everyone can hear me okay. I'm really excited for this webinar because we're going to dive into why hospitality automation is the next big thing, and of course, in partner with Jurny. But this is an exciting webinar because the expert panelists that we have on today not only are big leaders in the space, but I also am considering them close friends as well. So excited to be hosting, and let's jump in. Since the hospitality sector is highly competitive, it is imperative that short-term rental owners and operators align themselves with hospitality technology trends. Modern technology enables businesses to streamline their processes, reduce cost, reduce staff workloads, improve revenue generation potential, and improve customer satisfaction. By utilizing the most up-to-date technology, including mobile apps and back-of-office dashboards, it is made possible to improve accuracy and efficiency to a level that is difficult for humans and staff members to achieve on their own. As well as making work more manageable, technology solutions like Jurny make it more achievable to meet or exceed today's increasingly high expectations from customers. But why is it so crucial to keep up with technology trends? In this webinar, hospitality professionals will learn how to navigate the ever-changing technology landscape in the hospitality sector, as well as how they can better strategize and consolidate the services they need in a fragmented market. So I'm your host or moderator, I guess. I'm used to the podcast side of hosting. So I'm Will Slickers, the host of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, as well as founder of hospitality.fm, the only podcast network in the hospitality industry. So very exciting. And we're going to introduce our panelists one at a time, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves because I might be a little biased, again, them being my friends and all that. So we're going to do ladies first. Brandy, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Brandy Canali. I am the COO of Sextant Stays. We are an urban operator headquartered in Miami. And I've been in this industry for 6 years, and I have seen this whole ride of automation. So hopefully we can have some interesting discussions today.
Amazing. And we are going to have amazing conversations and discussions. So I think next we'll do the man of the hour, Mr. Andrew Kitchell, and then we'll go to the main man, which is, of course, Luca from Jurny.
Great. Good to see everyone today. Excited for this conversation. I'm Andrew from Wheelhouse. Have built companies. Well, Wheelhouse has revenue management. We'll probably cover some of that today, but excited today to talk about the general technology landscape and how operators can think about the landscape. Have built multiple operating companies in the short-term / vacation rental space, multiple technology companies as well. Love the category from a bunch of different directions and excited to share some thoughts and questions today.
Amazing. And Luca Zambello from Jurny. How are we doing today?
Hi. Yeah, I'm Luca, CEO of Jurny. Been in the hospitality industry for about 10 years now, and about 4 years ago launched Jurny with the goal of making technology more accessible to everyone. I think there's a problem in our industry that is very fragmented, and it's very hard to have a easy to use, a very accessible solution, and that's what we are here for.
I love it. Well, let's dive in because we have a lot to discuss and we have some big questions to answer. And so in leading up to this webinar, we've all had conversations about the topic of why automation is key for our industry moving forward. But we've all said the same thing in those conversations, which is it's an art, it's a balance. So why has automation played a big role in all of your guys' businesses? And describe some key features of automation that you guys use today. And we'll go ahead with Luca.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think, like you said, like having a balance, it's very important. I think there's this misconception in the industry where, they say hospitality is about people and technology removes people, so it makes it less hospitable. And I think it's actually, like you said, it's a balance. Something that we encounter. I mean, I've been in the industry, like I said, for 10 years, and I've been working with both hotels and the short-term rentals industry as well. And one of the things that I realize is that technology used the proper way and the proper technology, right? Because technology that doesn't work doesn't enhance the experience. But proper technology and using the proper way can really enhance the guest experience. And sometimes allow you to remove some of the things that don't bring any value. In hotel space, the perfect example is the front desk. There's really not, if you ask, majority of guests don't see any value in having a front desk. And just automating that part, but automating it properly. But right, like if you come to a property and they have a lockbox and the lockbox doesn't work and it's hidden in a bush or something like that, that's not a good experience. But if they can arrive and then seamlessly check in, right, through their phone, or they have a very clear check-in information and stuff, and they can do it on their own, and they feel empowered, then now you're empowering the guest. And by saving costs, by automating processes, you now have more time and money to invest in the guest experience. And so I think here is where you want to utilize technology to actually increase and become more hospitable, if anything, right? And another perfect example is that you can utilize technologies on figure out what the latest trends are, what guests are looking for. For instance, guests are looking more and more, instead of more than consistency, people lacking experiences more, custom experiences. So how do you invest in that, right? So that means that people are valuing, before they value more somebody opening their door and carrying their luggage into their hotel and having that consistently. And now people don't care about that. Now people caring about like maybe having a kitchen in the room, having something that is like a cool gift basket or things of that nature. So people need to shift their mindset to investing in those things, and technologies will help you to do that.
I love that. And go ahead, Brandy.
Yeah, I think, there's, as your business expands also, it's a way to keep organized some of this automation. If you're doing things still by hand, like for example, like your cleaning schedule, there's just so many things that it leaves more opportunity for things to fall through the cracks. So you want to optimize everything from your revenue management to your housekeeping, and it allows you to, as Lucas said, maybe spend more time on things that add more to the guest experience that you wouldn't have had time to otherwise, because you were busy doing things by hand or something like that.
Totally agree. And going into, Brandy just mentioned dynamic pricing, revenue management. So Andrew, what are your thoughts when it comes to that? Because I 100% agree with the organization part. When you do things by hand, stuff slips through the cracks, obviously. So
yeah, I mean, I think that automation to me is a little bit about trade-offs, in the sense that, like, I think what automation enables is potentially a personalization of experience. So you have either more time, or whether it's automated pricing or digital access to a room, that really enables you to create a more seamless and eventually very personalized experience, even the automation of comms and things like that. And I think that the trade-off with automation is control becomes really, really important. So for example, if you're going to give someone a digital key card to get into a room, well, that digital key card shouldn't last into perpetuity. You need to put controls on when that kind of key card expires. And similar with revenue management, automation, the benefit is the ability to capture market trends, and the controls that people often set are like, well, we want this model and the response to the demand patterns to take place within these various parameters. But I think automation is an important foundation of personalization and of saving time and operational costs. But it does, I think, come with another problem to solve, which is how do you control that automation in exactly the way that you want your business to perform and execute?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Sorry, I think, it helps you kind of set like an autosafe, basically. Like if you have everything scheduled from your cleanings or your maintenance tasks or from the revenue pricing side, it allows you to go in and make those little tweaks that you can use to make sure that everything is actually exactly how you want it. But it's kind of like a fail safe to make sure that things are actually getting done.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. And I think it's important, for everybody to know that we've been kind of like in the game for a while right now. And Andrew with Lyrics, and we before, and with Guestwiser, and managed hundreds of units, and Brandy's right in the middle of it, right? And we've seen what worked and what doesn't. Like we've learned that on our own scheme, and we understood that really how to really bring the. And I think that that's kind of like why Andrew probably like focus on creating technology for this industry, and I did the same. Is because we understood some of the limitations that there are in today's industry, and how hard it is for the everyday operators to adopt technologies. But we also understand the importance of it, and we understand that there's really almost impossible to build a very scalable business while providing the consistent experience and a good experience for your guests if you don't implement technologies.
100%. And the reason why I got excited about this conversation with you, you three, is because when I was a hotel manager, there were so many tasks that took away from the staff's ability to actually give a guest experience, to actually connect with people one-on-one. Now, obviously things have changed. There's less and less front desk usage, right? And properties, as we've kind of just talked about. But the key thing, I think, for us, and this is going to lead into a question I have for you guys, do you think the word automation gets a bad rep because we even have a comment, automate the predictable so you can humanize the exceptional, right? So again, Luca, like you mentioned, we're not taking away the guest experience or taking away the humanization. We're taking away, there's a saying that we had in the Army, just going into trust but verify, right? So you trust your systems that you put in place, but you need to verify that they're actually working. So it's not like we're just completely on autopilot. And I think sometimes the word automation gets a bad word or a bad rep. Do you guys agree? And how do you fight that when people automatically assume that you're taking away the humanization aspect?
I think you have to, there's also an element that if you're not doing some of these things, you're going to get left behind, and certainly like your business will suffer. So I think automation, people assume it's like these robots coming in to take your job, and it's necessary tools that your business needs to succeed in today's environment. And so instead of viewing automation as an adversary, view it as an advocate, and how it can enable you to make more money, provide a better experience for your guests and your employees. And there might be entire other departments or jobs that your company can create that are now more catered to a guest or catered to the guest experience, and then the dull day-to-day tasks can be done by a system.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I want to ask a question because we've all had backgrounds in operations. Brandy, COO of Sextant, Luca with Jurny, Andrew with Lyric. We've all had a operations background, and we've seen the unlimited amount of tech that we have available from hotels and short-term rentals. And my question to all of you is, why do you think that all of us, and maybe even some small/bigger operators, have rejected the legacy tech and have stayed with short-term rental technology that we've seen really populate over the last, let's say, 5 to 6 years?
I have an answer. You go to a hotel conference and then go to a short-term rental conference and look at the average age of the people they're going to these conferences. Like I think the age gap is maybe 20 or 30 years, like a difference. so I think that tells you like the difference is that I think what the short-term rental industry can teach to the entirety of the hospitality industry is the fact that we're more willing to adapt and test new things and try new things. And in today's environment, that is key to survive. That is key to thrive. And that is key to actually change the game and really become the next big thing. And I think things are going to really start. It already starts where we start seeing the trends of the hotels and short-term rentals coming closer and closer together, almost like the same industry. I know Brandy and I had this similar conversation in another panel. And actually what we've seen, and this is also an experience with Andrew, where I was having a conversation with Andrew the other day. I was like, hey, you know that your pricing system actually works better than any other pricing system for hotels, right? Because we're using your pricing software for hotels that we have, and we are outperforming every other hotels around our comp set. And that's a perfect example to show like how technologies that was developed for short-term rental actually now applies even, and is even better and greater for the hotel industry. Yeah, and I think the two industries are becoming one or the same, more because like the hotel industry needs to adapt to what we're doing, what we're bringing, how we're changing the game. So I think we have a big advantage here, the short-term rental industry, to really change things. And if you look what segment of the industry is hurting the most right now, and all hotels are starting to hurt, but mainly independent boutique hotels are hurting. And the reason why is because they're fighting OTAs versus joining them, right? They're fighting technology versus joining technology. So we need to understand here, why is short-term rental winning the battle, and then double down on that.
Yeah, and you also have, I think, with the bigger hotel chains, the resistance to adopting new technology is the scale at which it would have to be implemented. In some cases, like that's a big bet for these brands to make, and so it's probably just easier and safer to stick with something that they know and they're familiar with. And so I hope that in the background somewhere there's a hotel operating system that's trying to convince Marriott to come on board, or Hilton, and to modernize their systems. But I would say like why you're not seeing widespread adoption is that kind of the tastemakers of the hotel industry are so reluctant to make such a huge financial and operational gamble.
Well, and that's a really good comment. And Brandy, I want to ask you a question personally, because we did chat that, you guys have switched operating systems multiple times. And I love your comments, is that my allegiance is to what makes the company better, right? So not allegiance to a technology because you like the people, but because it makes your company operate better at a higher efficiency. So can you kind of maybe give us some insight outside of that statement on the changes?
Yeah, I think, what your business looks like at every phase is different, obviously. And so the systems that you're using have to be the best systems for that phase of your business. And, speaking to that, the hotels, like it's a huge ship to turn. And so that's why they're not doing it. But at this point, the cost of not turning the ship is too great. So for us, yeah, we've made these changes. I will say it gets more and more painful each time because you're bigger. So there's obviously more challenges, but it's, what is the cost of me not making that change? And you just have to take your time and make sure that all of your, everything's in a row, and then you make the switch because that's for what's best for you. And there are some other added benefits of working with different companies. Like someone might be willing to do development work for you, or actually prioritize something in their development queue that would really help not only your business but their other clients. So if you're not having those conversations, you'll never know. So I have been saying a lot that my allegiance is to what's best for the business, and that's really true, because I think not just in hotels, but in short-term rentals, you have people that are like, the thought of changing is so just, anxiety inducing. You don't even want to think about it, when you might be missing out on something really great for your business, more revenue, easier operations. And so it's always worth really, diving into that. I'm always happy to talk it through. It's like a therapy session, but it's worth kind of thinking about what else is out there for your business.
Hey, Will, can I throw out my slightly controversial opinion?
100%.
Okay, so I believe that short-term rental technology is already the best technology in the accommodation space. And even if someone was to disagree with that, I would argue definitively that short-term rental technology is more future-proofed, because all of these systems have been designed in our current data environment and the current consumer environment, right? I think something that's misunderstood about Airbnb and what that larger space, our larger space, connotes is that it's a merchandising revolution. And people want to consume, they want to go to a place that's experience rich, and they're looking at all your attributes of your spaces, in the case of a home, a porch, pool, patio, Wi-Fi, parking, all that matters now. And that didn't matter back in the day. And the challenges that the short-term rental space have, that we've had to face from an operations perspective, like distributed operations, that's way harder than cleaning a hotel. routing people, that's like an incredibly hard problem. You know, digital access, incredibly hard problem. It's just being solved right now. So the technology of the future that's going to allow for lighter weight operations, those are problems that teams in the short-term rental space have been working on for a decade. The barriers to entry in our space are zero. That means you have a lot of businesses that have 1 to 10 listings, but they're profit maximizers, right? They want the best technology. And those people are independent decision makers. That means you can get adoption and get your first 10 users using your product immediately, so quickly, right? Months in the development cycle, as opposed to the hotel space, there are huge barriers and there are huge slow processes to any adoption. So what the technology environment and what investors have been pouring money into this space recently, they've been pouring money into short-term rental technologies because they've been sitting on the knife edge of delivering from operationally difficult experiences on a new inventory type in a bigger data environment than ever existed before. So again, even if you were to say, hey, no way, hotel tech's still much better than quote unquote short-term rental tech. First, I would argue like probably worth checking out because 2 years is a long time in technology development landscape, part one. And part two is like, no way your system's going to be more future-proofed on hotels. And that's my slightly controversial opinion, but I would love to discuss it further. If
I actually totally agree. And I had 2 experiences in the last couple of years where I've come up against like the hotel software. So we took a building in New Orleans that was using Opera, and I didn't get to play around in it as much, but just dealing with the reservation data was a nightmare. Like it was almost unusable. And that is Opera, is like Will told me the other day, is like, if I've seen that, I've seen it all. And so if you can't even export a CSV file with customer data in it, like that's small potatoes compared to the rest of the system. And then we were looking at different, maintenance and housekeeping softwares and things like that. And this was a little while ago, and we saw Core, which is used by hotels, and they are really interested in trying to get into the short-term rental space. So we were trying to like work with them and see what was going on. But they're used to working with a hotel where like the hotel has 200 rooms, it will only have 200 rooms. They build out the infrastructure. You don't have to change it. But if we wanted to add, if we added a 60 unit building, that would take them weeks to build out all of the, build out that building in our software. And so they have definitely this mindset where things take so much longer. There isn't this instant connection. And so obviously that did not work out. We're not using them. I would, again, if they change that in the future, love to revisit the conversation, but it seems like the hotel industry is built for things to be incredibly stagnant. And that's,
absolutely.
It's not how we operate.
100%. I have a lot of experience in that from that side as well. Like you look at a hotel ramp up, like the expectation of a hotel ramping up into their, like, let's say what they think their revenues are going to be is 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years. You talk to the short-term rental operators, it's 2 to 3 months. If it doesn't happen in 3 months, it's not good. So like that is like also perfect examples. Like like you said, the timelines and how they think about this is completely different. It's way more conservative, and it's just old school. I think if they're not going to adopt, they're going to be taken over. And I think actually smart operators, like Brandy, they are actually taking over hotels. You right now, exactly now taking over a hotel with a short-term rental mindset, and maybe just adding a couple things, like maybe like a couple improvements, like a kitchenette, a little bit more decor because they're super cold hotels. You now can take boutique hotels, run them as short-term rentals, list them on Airbnb, by the way. And I'm telling you, because I've done it as an operator, I know it's successful. I see other operator doing it. It's a very small trend now, but I think this is going to be a huge thing in the future. If you're a smart operator today, you can look at that route as well, and it's going to be huge in the future. So,
well, I'll just
yeah, go for it.
I was going to say, back in 2019, when I was a front office manager, we were the first hotel to actually put our condominium suites on Airbnb, and then realizing, oh my gosh, our RevPAR, ADR, all that stuff skyrocketed because the people that were coming to that destination were increasingly looking for that living accommodation. They're not looking for a room, a microwave, and a short little fridge that stinks and smells like cheese or bad milk. They're looking for something that they can actually relax in, that can feel like home, but still give them that essence of that vacation that they dreamed of. And so I think, Andrew made the comment. We're more of an e-commerce type solution, where that's what the travelers are wanting from us. They're not wanting to put 20 fields of text in to book a reservation, to then give the credit card again at check-in when they already used it to book, and all this other stuff. There's too many friction points, and that's why companies like Airbnb do very well. And so I want you guys to go into the question of, what does a proper tech stack look like, and why is that question harder to answer than it is to ask?
I'd love to speak to that. As someone who has been building out and changing their tech stack, I think part of the thing, personally I've gone through is, like, you have one piece of the system, right? You have the brain, the PMS, and it says it can do all these different things, but maybe it doesn't do it quite as well as another product that's on the market. And then honestly, it's the time and capital investment, resource investment to testing things out, because you never really know until it's actively working within your business. I think that's the most difficult thing, is trial and error can be expensive and time consuming. And that's why operators, like Jurny, had started to build their own technology to fit exactly what they want. And so I definitely understand why that's appealing, but you want to make sure, I think, in your tech stack, the basics, you want the brain, your PMS, making sure all of your reservations are there, whether that has its own operations management or you have another part. And then obviously your pricing and your revenue management. Those, I would say, are like the biggest key components that have to fit together seamlessly. And again, that can be hard to find.
100%. I want to add a couple more, just because that's also like on our mission. As I said in the beginning, is we see the industry being very fragmented, and our goal is to really put it together into a seamless experience. And that's a big it's a big project, it's a big journey, and because it's not easy, right? And so I think, beautiful cat.
Thank you. Mia says hi.
So no, and I think, speaking to that, it's very important. I think there's new technology pieces that are coming out that are super important for businesses in order to scale. And one of them, for example, is access system and access control, especially if you're looking, forget about it, even single family, which is obviously it's important, but it's even more important if you're going to hotels or multifamilies, where you have multiple access systems. Having something that works seamlessly for your access control and works together with your reservation system, super important. I see very little of that right now in the market. And then at the same time, I think cleaning management, ticketing systems, all of that needs to really work together with your PMS. I think there's when I talk about being fragmented, that's one of the problems, is that you have all these different systems that if you really can put them together and make them work together flawlessly, they can save you insane amount of time. And even if they don't work flawlessly today, they can still save you time, just the fact having an electronic, like you said, Andrew was saying before, having control, right? Like, you want to make sure that the code changes when your guests leave. You want to make sure that code only works from the beginning to the end of the reservation for that guest. If you don't, and trust me, I've operated buildings where that didn't happen before, you're going to encounter a lot of problems. Safety, security, there's plenty of problems. Guests checking in when other guests are inside the room, not knowing which cleaner is cleaning which room, those are all informations you want to have, especially if you go at scale. You manage 20 to 50 rooms, yeah, you can probably manage it. You start going to 200, 300, 400 units. If you don't have that, that's not going to scale.
Add some thoughts on Lucas on that. I think there's so Will, you're curious about the perfect tech stack and how to think about it. So there realistically are two
yeah.
ways this could evolve. You could have a monolithic tech stack that was one company that built every piece of technology, and you could go that way. Or you could look at the key systems, channel management, property management, revenue management, others. I think there's 6 to 7 key systems, and having experts build those technologies and making sure those technologies speak together really well. And they're both, the challenges of both, right? It's kind of like 6 of one have to have a dozen of another. I think in the long term, medium term, we'll see the specialty technologies that speak well together win, because it is so hard to build any aspect of those technologies. Channel management, incredibly hard. I would never want to spend time on it. Building property management software, so hard. Infinite things, everyone pulling you in different directions. Revenue management, I think Wheelhouse is in Gen 3 of 9 generations, and we've been working on it for 7 years. It's like really hard. And you wouldn't want a team that was saying like, hey, yeah, we spend 10% of our company resources on revenue management. You would want a software provider that was all in, solving the problem and living and breathing and dog fooding as much as possible. So I think the challenge is actually now we have an investment ecosystem where you can go, these verticals are big enough that you can have great teams, build incredible technology. And the challenge is going to be making sure they all interoperate. So some of what Jurny's looking at, right? But I think the latter version will win, not the monolith will win. It's not without problems the other way, but it does allow you to kind of replace pieces a little bit more thoughtfully, potentially. So probably give that this slight advantage.
Yeah, I agree. If you're beholden to one, the monolith, as you say, then if there's something about it that you don't like, you really can't do anything about it. You're stuck, because that big investment to change systems would be even more difficult than just changing one component, obviously. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and the roadmap, if your product setting complained about from 8 different angles, like what do you prioritize?
Yep.
There's just some there's laws to the pull of what your consumers ask for, right? That I think, again, leans towards nimbler, faster moving teams of specialists where the technologies speak well together.
Yeah, and to Andrew's point, I think it's about putting together the best of the best in each field and make it work well together. I think that's the challenge today. It's making the systems work well together. That's what Jurny is working on, because we understood that was a problem. But like you said, Andrew, the best service providers are going to be the ones they can make their system communicate well with the other systems, because that's the biggest problem that we have right now. But I think we're at a pivotal moment right now in the industry where it's about to change to the other side.
Well, I was going to ask you, Luca, particularly, you've seen this, you're right. You've been working with other tech companies to bring this to light. So what can maybe behind the scenes, what actions are taken in order for them to all talk to each other properly? How do you get everyone on board?
Well, I think that's where we saw the business opportunity here, is because you have to have enough scale to have enough voice with some of the service providers so that they will listen to you, and sometimes just enough convincing, right? That you have to convince them to modify specific things so that you can have this unified language for everybody, versus using the public API connections. And I think that's the biggest challenge. And if you're larger operators, I think you can do it. Like Sander did that, and I know probably many other larger operators are doing that or working towards that. The problem is the smaller operators, and that's what we're trying to help making this more accessible. I think that companies like Jurny is the first, but I don't think it's the last. Let's put it that way. I think there's going to be a trend in the future just fixing that problem. Like Andrew said, like there's different verticals that you need to be fixing, and just making sure the system communicates properly together is going to be a business on itself.
100%. Well, Brandy, as an operator, I want to ask you, what goes through your mind when you hear this stuff? When you hear the tech companies either you're using or looking at using or potentially could use in the future, because obviously that won't slow you down as you guys keep moving that train along. So as an operator, what goes through your head when you're hearing tech companies discuss certain things like this with, overall integrations and communication and scalability and?
Yeah, I mean, it's very exciting. Like the speed at which things are moving is very exciting. But also, it's like no one wants to be the beta test. No one wants to be the trial run when you go through this. And so I think for me, that's always a little nerve-wracking. It's like, okay, yeah, it's great. It sounds awesome, but like, can somebody else try first? But it gives me hope. I'd say that the changes that I've seen in the last couple of years compared to the few years that I was in this industry, because technology is changing so quickly, and that communication part, like if we're going to have all these different puzzle pieces that fit together, having them actually fit together, not like slamming them together and hoping it works, or like, oh, some pieces of information come over but others don't, but it depends on which systems, like what like organization pattern you've come up with. That's really frustrating. So if we can have these products that clearly seamlessly work together, I think it's going to make my life easier, but then also all of the operators, so you don't have to worry like, oh, it's just like, are just the names going through, or is it all the reservation data? Or, if I set up a listing in my PMS, is it actually going out to all these different OTAs, or do I have to make an entirely new listing in that OTA? All these like little components that right now are still really fragmented. It's hopeful to know that these are problems that are being worked on by people who are invested in that one particular niche, like dynamic pricing. Andrew's team is just on that, and it's nice to know that we have the best and brightest figuring these problems out.
Too kind, but we'll take it. Yeah, no. I don't know if that's directed at us. Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, right? Because when you think about where does the hospitality space go from here? And we all know, no matter what market you're in or what industry or what sector of kind of the accommodation space you're in, like your customers are going to look a lot different post-COVID. The stay patterns are going to look a lot different. Again, merchandising and kind of the way people think about loyalty moving forward is going to probably shift a little bit. So like, I just think there's so many aspects of our space that are going to shift that, again, it kind of pushes me into believing that the small, nimble, independent expert teams going really deep and not making you all the beta customers, Brandy, but like kind of moving quickly to adapt to the new trends is a safer place to be right now than hoping for that monolith company that maybe hasn't delivered a small feature that you asked for 12 months ago. If they haven't delivered that, no way they're going to be able to quickly adjust to the new trends. So like just the pace of our world today leads me to believe that more nimble architecture, tightly stitched, will win.
Yeah, and I think it speaks also from a tax. In 10 years in this industry, I think I realized one thing: how to choose who to work with. And I don't usually choose to work with the people that are the best today, but I choose to work with the people I think are going to be the best in 3-4 years from today. I think it's and sometimes I'm willing to suffer some of their pains today because I know that they're going to be getting to the point where one day they're going to be the best. And I structure my business around something that is going to be the future and not something that is going to be obsolete. That's, I think, something very important. I learned on my own scheme the hard way, and I think that's something I want to share with other operators. It's to Andrew's point, right? Like you want to work with the people that you see that their tech is evolving so quickly, but if you work with someone who's moving slowly or who's taking months to develop a single feature, doesn't matter how good the stack is today, they're going to be obsolete in 2 years. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, or when things are just always on the roadmap and you're like, how long is this map?
Yes.
Where am I on this map?
Yep.
Yeah, start here and you'll end up there, but only 10 years later. Well, I think a common thing I'm hearing from all three of you is a consistent thing of speed, right? So, Andrew Kitchell, I know you and me have talked about this many times, believing that the short-term rental space is the space for the best and the brightest because it's so entrepreneurial focused. And I think that's a big common theme you can see on the panel today as well. So With that, why do you think some operators are deciding to go the opposite direction, which is low tech, high touch, where it's still that chaotic mess of trying to figure out who's cleaning what, who's checking in, where the keys are, all that good stuff? And then why do we move so fast? And is that a good thing? Do we need to slow down in any direction because we're maybe moving too fast for the overall operator or consumer?
Yeah, I think that's really fair. I think you know, a lot goes into building great products, and we'll just take like Wheelhouse as an example. Like, we need to be really good at data first to be able to even start putting out good price recommendations. But I don't think our UI was the best. I don't think we necessarily were as deeply embedded into our partners' businesses now to be able to like understand their needs and therefore design ways for people to really control the system in the way that they wanted to. So I think there's why would someone choose not to use technology? It's like, well, it's another thing to learn. It's another thing to control. It's another thing somewhat out of their power. Like those are all difficult things. And I think there's a lot of data that goes into good product development. But there's a lot of like kind of user testing and product empathy and kind of user empathy that is starting to emerge in our space. So again, like, I don't even think when I look at short-term rental technology from kind of 10 years ago, I don't think that's super empathetic technology. I don't think it's super delightful, but I think the new generation is, again, getting the right talent into the category, great designers, great visual designers, great user experience designers. They're coming in, right? Because there's capital flooding in. So I think it's just like, why would have someone not chosen technology? Because we weren't good enough. We just weren't good enough a couple of years ago. And why should they now? It's like, because we're getting there. And we're going to continue to quickly get there is why like, I think that opinion for the folks who are still saying, hey, I want to run some things off of paper and pencil. I think that's, you know, a lot of people are using Facebook or social networks to keep up with friends and not writing letters anymore. Technology just makes it easier to do what you love. And as long as it's usable and does what you want, and that's happening.
Your point about how, you know, the technology wasn't great in the not so distant past, I think that's part of the conversation now has to be regaining people's trust. It's like, hey, look, I know 5 years ago you came, this wasn't great, but let me really show you all the ways that we addressed all of these things that you complained about. And I think you also have maybe some operators who, this industry is, you know, it's been around for a while. We did the same thing the same way for this amount of time, and now you're telling me I have to change. And I think one of the other, from the guest side, one of the key things to think about is the short-term rental guest has changed. It is now, I think Expedia came out with a quote that like more than half of the VRBO users were first-time vacation rental users. And so that's a guest that has absolutely no idea what this experience is like. And the reality is they're expecting everything like a hotel. And to, you know, achieve that in this business model, you have to have some of those automations. You have to use the technology that's available to cater to the expectation, because you're not really going to change that expectation. That's where the bar is at this point.
100%. And I think we talked about it a little bit on our pre-chat, but the ability for companies like Sextant, like Jurny, like Wheelhouse, you're now allowing the operators to give their guests the option of what they want to experience, right? Do they want to experience someone when they get to their property, or do they want to just get in and get out and go grab a beer or a dinner or whatever that may be? Versus back in the day, you had to go through the front desk. You couldn't do a mobile check-in, and even if you did, you still had to stop at the front desk and get your key. But now companies like you are able to allow them to choose how they want to experience it based off of their unique choice. And so I do want to get to this question that was asked from Richard, who is in the on the guest side listening in. Does the panel feel like technology and speed of life has impacted on mental health?
Yeah, I'll start with that one. I think, I mean, just like not just, you know, pertaining to this conversation, but there are extremely positive and extremely negative consequences of the use of technology on your mental health. And we've been watching the world unfold over the last 2 years. Technology helped people communicate and stay in touch when it was not physically possible. But then you have people who are living in their phones and are kind of like have a warped sense of reality. So that obviously has a negative consequence to it. But I think if we want to bring it back to our industry, one thing that we're doing at Sexton is trying to provide some of the benefits that people wanted from the hotel, that in-person interaction. We have virtual concierges who can talk to you just like you're a regular person, if they were standing right in front of you, to get some of that human connection. And the spaces that we're choosing, the buildings that we're going into, we're trying to pick locations that foster actual human connection, that have a big, maybe like a common space, like one of our buildings in New Orleans has a lobby bar. So you might have people that come in and meet each other just by chance and they strike up a conversation. And even if it's just, a couple minute interaction, that is some sort of like positive mental health. There's some positive benefits there to your mental health. You're getting actual connection. So I don't think that automating our check-in process or our operations is going to have a negative impact on anyone's mental health. I think it actually gives us ways to improve people's mental health by giving us the time and space to think about what those experiences might be.
Yeah, and I think like we were mentioning before, balance. Balancing the two. If you have a cold, I mean, the reality is, like, when I check in like into a big name hotel, I don't feel that good. The rooms are cold, in my opinion. They're like the same exact room. Anywhere you check in the world, they are going to look exactly the same. That's depressing to me. And I think creating that, you have to balance the two, right? Like, if you bring in technology and you're doing these virtual check-ins, then you have to bring some human touch in the design of the room, human touch into what people find when they get there, right? I give another example. Like, well, again, it's about what brings value to people. Like, virtual check-ins, most people don't see value in checking with a person, right? But if you would have a handwritten letter when you arrive to your room, that will bring a lot of value to your guest. That's the best example of something that actually can bring additional value by utilizing technology. Now you have the time and resources to do it, right? So, like Brandy said, like, if you're on your phone all day long checking social media, you're probably not going to be happy. But if you utilize your phone just for what you need and to communicate and be closer with people, then I can speak from my personal experience. I moved from Italy when I was 21 to US, left behind family and friends, and I'm still so close to my family and friends. And the reason why I'm still so close is because of technologies, because I can take my phone and just video chat them and they're like there. So there's two sides of it.
I also think from your employees, your staff, like the freeing up people's time, giving work-life balance, these tools that are coming onto the market, those help with that. Because all of us have been in the whirlwinds, just like constantly fighting battles. And I think a lot of this technology helps give us some of that time back so that we can do things that have absolutely nothing to do with our industry, that we can go and read a book or go on vacation, or set our teams up so that the people at the top don't have to be constantly overseeing things. There was a point where I remember if Andreas and I both went on vacation, it was like, is there going to be a business when we get back? And, now our entire leadership team could go on a trip and we know that the company is still running smoothly. And a lot of that has to do with these, technological advancements and automation that have come up in the last couple of years.
Great point.
100%. I was going to say, even look at us today. We got Andrew in San Francisco. We got Luca in LA. We got Brandy in Miami. We got myself in Denver. Like, this is granted, this isn't automated. There's a lot of work going into a webinar, but we are using the power of technology in order to bring something that's dear to our hearts, which is a great conversation around something that we're passionate about. And I think you can understand that, the play I get Zoom fatigue just like everybody else, but still at the end of the day, I feel better when I know that I'm going to be meeting with great minds like Brandy and Andrew and Luca in order to really just have that connection where if you look around me, that like outside of this camera screen, you don't see the life that's happening. There's cars outside, there's people walking, there's, my roommates and some friends in the living room chilling right now. Like, all that type of stuff is happening. Yet you have this power of technology to connect you. So it's just really cool to see. And I know there's a lot that we can go into with technology and automation, but that's just something that I felt really excited about. But I do want to ask you guys kind of a closing question to get some more, thoughts and some maybe some energy going through is what is getting you guys excited? Now, this can be taken in many directions, but when it comes to automation, when it comes to, again, balance, when it comes to the ability for flexible operations on what your guests experience with your property, with your brand overall, what is getting you guys so excited, whether it's current or future endeavors that are in the making?
Well, Andrew, go ahead. I'll let you.
No, Brandy, you got it.
Okay. Well, I think it's not directly related to automation, but using all these tools at our disposal to create a more personalized guest experience, because that's something I think, you do miss out sometimes. Some of our buildings have a full staff that, they're so large, they kind of have to, but some of them are smaller and they don't. So trying to figure out how we can, bring that personal touch back to every single guest day and not just special guest days. And I look at things as simple as, a guest experience agent makes a note in the cleaning notes that it's someone's birthday or an anniversary. And I've seen an uptick in the last maybe 2 months that our housekeepers or the inspectors are coming in and putting in, champagne and cupcakes and really personalizing that experience because of just a note they saw. There was no other communication. It was just a note in their, in our cleaning schedule, and they were able to do that. So trying to figure out how we can use these different systems to keep adding that personal touch is something I'm excited for personally.
Oh, I want to ask you like a sub question to that. How do you train? How do you train for that? Can you train for someone to have that kind of, what do you call it? Ability to just take action on something so small.
Yeah, I guess that foresight also. So there's 2 parts to it. It's retraining our guest experience, like our reservations team, to go, when we were smaller, it was like save as much money as possible at all costs. And now we have gone outside of that. It's like, what is going to get us the best review? What's going to give the guest the best experience? So if, finding out little tidbits, if they, obviously a lot of guests just Instabook, you never hear from them, which is great. But if you are having a conversation, it's like, okay, they're coming in, they're having surgery. What can we put in the unit that is like flowers or something that's going to make their day just a little bit better? And also empowering our housekeeping team, whether it's a housekeeping specialist or their supervisor, to go out and make that purchase. Really at this point, unless they're spending, if they're buying like something that's $5,000, we're probably not going to be happy about it. But if you go and buy a nice bottle of champagne and some flowers at someone's anniversary, like go ahead, go for it. That sounds great. So it's really retraining and empowering those team members to make those kind of decisions without having to ask anyone about it. So it's empowering them, I think, is the basic level of that. And it takes a while. We're still working on it, but it's possible.
Awesome. Well,
yeah,
same. What's exciting me about the future, I think, is that we haven't even seen the beginning of the change. I think Airbnb, Airbnb and HomeAway have revolutionized, and OTAs in general have revolutionized distribution. And that distribution it's a very important piece of our business, but it's a small piece compared to everything else that is around it. And just revolutionizing distributions, it give the opportunity to so many companies that they started these short-term rental businesses. They're like basically the modern hotels, right? That's what they are. They're modern hotel chains. And that's just one aspect. You can only imagine what is going to happen when you revolutionize everything else, all the other aspects. right? Like Andrew said, and now it's about to happen. And I think in the next like 3 to 5 years, we're going to see this unfolding. And the people that are on top of the game, on top of their game, and more willing to adapt quickly are the differences. Just the distributions made a massive difference between independent hotels and short-term rentals. Like if you do that properly, you're going to outperform a regular hotel that has been around, even with more services. A limited service multifamily or apart hotel can outperform a hotel today if run properly. That's just one aspect. What happens when you're going to change 7, 8 other aspects as well on your operation? You become leaner, you're becoming better, you're becoming better creating those experiences and understanding what the modern guest wants. The companies that are going to nail that down, they're going to be moving at speeds that we've never seen. And this space is about to change in ways that we cannot even imagine. That's what excites me. I love changes. Some people hate changes. I love changes. I love seeing great companies like Sextons be ahead of the curve. And that excites me.
Sweet. 2 great answers. Love it. I'll share what I'm excited about. I think in the accommodation space, the bar has been too low for technology, and that a lot of people have been kind of waiting for changes, and they've seen tech teams that take so long to deliver things, and it makes technology really frustrating when technology can be super delightful and it can make your job easier and it can make people more empowered, like you're saying, Brandy, and be at least a foundation of that. Or a way to create it at scale. So I'm really excited to build delightful software that illustrates to the people who work really, really, really hard in our category that there is a better, easier way. And I love it when a customer sees some automation and we've had customers cry being like, oh my God, I just got 10 or 20 hours of my week back. Like that to me is technology at its best. And I don't think we've been there. And I'm probably naive, as hopefully as Wheelhouse gets a lot bigger, we'll probably slow down too. But like, I just want to move really fast and build delightful software for people and show our space what other spaces have come to know about how delightful software can be and technology can be for them.
Love it.
Yeah. I was going to say 3 great answers here. And I know we're coming up on the hour. So thank you guys. I just want to say, for one, putting this together, inviting me to host, but then also giving such great insight. It's been super exciting. And of course, love getting to hear all of your guys' thoughts and opinions on what's happening in the industry. So a couple announcements before we move on. Just a big shout out to the short-term rentals team for the Shorties Awards coming up May 18th in London. So if you haven't got your ticket, then go get your ticket now. So that way, obviously, you can attend and watch many of these panelists. Actually, I think all of you are up for a Shorties Award. So very exciting. Congratulations. If I had my round of applause button ready, I would boom, hit that right now. But you guys are awesome. And so I think that is it. If we don't have another slide. Okay. Yes, there we go. There's a link to the chat. If you want to do a pitch to Paul, you can do all sorts of stuff there. More webinars. Shorttermrentals.com is killing it with the amount of content they're putting out for the industry with amazing experts like Brandy, Andrew, and of course, Luca. So reach out for sponsorship opportunities to Katie here, and they'll make sure that they get you lovely and taken care of and all that good stuff. I think that is it for today. Oh, we got one more. Go ahead and follow them on all your social media apps, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Go get it and make sure to like and subscribe to everything shorttermrentals.com. It's weird saying it for somebody else. I'm used to saying it for the podcast. So, it's very different, but love it. Thank you guys for attending today's webinar, and we'll see you all again very soon.